Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's creative musical idea we're going to be checking out arpeggiation. Let's go. So arpeggiation, if you're into kind of synthesis or any type of, electronic music production, you've probably come across this before. At its kind of basic form, it can be quite a simple concept, but I want to show you how I try to kind of get a bit more creativity and some fun out of this. We're going to try a couple different techniques, all kind of around the same concept, which is arpeggiation, but let's dive in. So to start us off, I've got the Spitfire Labs piano open, not the soft piano. We've upgraded to the autograph piano. Again, these are all free, so if you want to check them out, fantastic instruments. Kind of sounds like this. Very nice. So to start us off, I'm going to quickly load up an arpeggiator. And this is what you get. Add an extra note. You get the idea. It's arpeggiating all the notes I'm playing. So when you're looking at an arpeggiator, there's like a handful of controls that you want to consider. There is the rate, which is how fast it arpeggiates. There's the gate, which is how long the notes are held for as it's arpeggiating. And then you have the style of arpeggiation, whether that's arpeggiating up, down, randomly. However, at least in Ableton, we have quite a few options, some I've never actually seen before. Let's dive into a couple of them and see kind of the different sounds we get. Obviously you got up, down, up, down. I'm not going to go through all the simple ones. We've got this converge, which is slightly different. Kind of doing this outwards in thing, and then diverge, which is the opposite, inwards out. Interesting. Pinky up. Or thumb up. That's cool. I haven't really seen those before, so it's nice that it's got that. Play order, which is pretty straightforward. So any order I press down the note is going to play it or repeat it in that order. Chord trigger, I quite like this one. Usually on a slower rate. Sick. And then random, which is all the kind of random goodness you'd want in an arpeggiator. You get the idea. So last but not least, after our style, we have the steps, or sometimes called the octave or the range. And this is how many times it kind of plays the range you're playing in, but then adds another octave. In the case of Ableton, you can actually change the distance. So not necessarily playing an octave in this case. So if I had it set to one step, it's going to play what I played plus an octave up. I'll change it to up so you can see what I mean. Right, so it's playing one in my normal octave, one an octave up. If I change this to 5, it's going to do it 5 notes up instead of an octave. Can get a bit more complicated musically, but the option's there if you want it. I'm going to stick to an octave for the time being. Okay, so with all that in mind, now we're going to start kind of grouping the controls and some ideas together. The first place I want to start is this sequencer I have on my keyboard. So obviously not necessarily arpeggiation, but like I'm going to use it in the idea of arpeggiating a note. Kind of like how we did in the last creative musical idea. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you press up there. You can see it. Let's move the microphone to the other side for a sec. So what I'm going to do here, I'm not sure how well you can see it on this camera, but I've got a little sequencer and I can press a note. And then it plays down that note. So I've just set 1 on the first count of each measure, so it just plays as is. Right, that's fine. I'm actually going to push it an octave up. So now I got that pulse going. I can kind of play whatever over it. And you can hear there when I put the sustain pedal down, it's going from kind of a plucked note to obviously sustaining. Right, and if I want to change that, I can go into my sequencer settings and I can change the gate as I would in the arpeggiator. I would change the length of all the notes. So you can see there, very simple kind of use of arpeggiation, of just arpeggiating the one note. Obviously I'm using the sequencer, but you can kind of do this in any matter. You can program it on the computer. So with that in mind, what I want to try to do is layer up this piano sound. I've got a synth up here. That's the Yamaha Reface CS. I've got it connected via Midi to this, so you can hear both notes play at the same time, kind of. There's a bit of latency, but you get the idea. So what I can do is I can latch an arpeggiation on the keyboard, and that's going to be playing a bit of everything. A bit of the piano that I've got on Ableton, as well as the synth. But normally when you've got an arpeggiator running, you can't really play on top of it without it readjusting the arpeggiation. But what this allows me to do is I can have an arpeggiation going from the keyboard and then freely play on the synthesizer as I please on top of it. So let's try something similar. I want to try that chord trigger mode where it plays all the notes at once and then I can play on top of that. So let's try it out. So that's quite fun. You can obviously have, it's just the one chord, but kind of gives you enough room that you're harmonically not all over the place and not hearing crazy music going on, but it gives you a little bit of a bedding to jam on top of, which is quite fun. One feature that I really like to get into is the chance feature. Again, this is something on my MIDI keyboard. You can do it in here, but you got to set up some stuff. It can be a bit complicated. I would recommend Googling that because it is a very fun feature. But what chance is obviously if you're playing something at 100% chance, it's going to sound like this. But if I lower the chance, say to 70%, so you can hear it's playing a bunch of the notes, but it's missing out 30% of them. And this is at random. So like, you know, it's constantly changing and evolving, even though it's the same notes, which is great because, you know, as long as you can kind of keep time in your head, you can freely play over this and it can be quite fun. Clearly I'm getting carried away, but you can see there, you can, you know, with just the one chord kind of arpeggiating and doing its own little thing in the background, gives you a bit more creativity, just a bit more spark in that idea. So the next place I want to use arpeggiation is on a drum kit. Now, maybe not the first place you would try arpeggiating something, but if you take the idea of just arpeggiating the one note, you can actually get some kind of very modern sounds out of an arpeggiator. So let me get up a drum kit real quick on here. Here we just have a blank drum rack that I can put some sounds into. If I go into my drums, get a hat. So like that, I'm just kind of changing the rate of the arpeggiator on my Midi keyboard. Obviously, it's still got a bit of chance on, so you're not hearing all the notes. If I put the chance to 100%, it's cool. You get a bit of that, you know, rolling, repeating sound going on. We can obviously program this in here as well. So if I just get an arpeggiator and chuck it on that note, sick. So you can kind of program some hats or some snares. You know, if you want to do a fill into a section, you can just ramp up an automation, you know, rate on a snare or whatever that may be. Kind of give you a bit more creativity. At least what I'm trying to get here is a lot of the random sense. You know, I like music that isn't necessarily kind of brought to me on a plate, but I like to make a mistake and somehow I get there. It's always given me at least a lot more satisfaction when I'm trying to find something new and trying to keep the creativity up. So hopefully that's something you can put in your back pocket. Okay, so last thing I'm going to try is I'm going to get a synth that's kind of plucky and ambient and nice. I'm going to play a bunch of notes, put the automation on random, and just kind of see what I can get out of that. Maybe something to play on top of, and yeah, let's try it out. So I found the sound. That's the sound. If I press this hold button on the arpeggiator, it will just hold, which is great. It will allow me to kind of play with this arpeggiator, maybe find something I like, and then work from there. And then I'll get the piano on top of it and see, we'll have a bit of a jam and see what it sounds like. That's basically the idea for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you got something out of that. I know arpeggiation is a basic concept, but you know, if you can take these basic concepts and, you know, find a creative use out of them, then hopefully you'll be on the journey to making some more music that you're actually happy with. Again, if you like this video, please leave a comment and like and subscribe and all that stuff. I really appreciate the feedback, so please, you know, let me know what you thought below. Got plenty of videos on here where we talk about production, you know, tutorials, making beats, do a couple of live streams as well, so stay tuned on the Mondays for that. And once again, I've been Chris Vella, and I'll see you on the next one.